When you enter Kentucky Welding Institute, enter from the Maysville Road. Select your parking spot and back in to your parking spot. This is a safety concern, honestly, so that people aren't backing out on top of people going to and from, locking in and out of KWI. When you leave, pull out, drive towards the Hinton Mills location. Pull around and orient so that you exit out the Industrial Park Road. Notice the green grassy area right there. That is actually our location, our rally point, should there be a fire in Kentucky Welding Institute. This is where you would go and report into your instructor so they can get accountability. That is how you enter, park, and exit Kentucky Welding Institute.
So no matter what shift you're on, this is how the morning or afternoon or evening procedures are going to work. You're going to show up 15 minutes early or so while the shift before you is doing their final cleaning, your bucket's right outside the door, go ahead and get yourself locked in and signed in. So if you notice, I've already hung my lock over my potential lock number. I'm going to go ahead and sign in. So I have my lotto number, K15 or W13, whatever your number is. Sign your name and sign the time that you came in. All right? The next thing I'm going to do is check my booth assignment. So the instructor has previously made a booth assignment. So it's got my lotto, it's got my name, and what booth I'm in this week. Any numbers that are in orange or circled in orange are those particular row foremen. So if you're assigned the row foreman after you've been here for a few weeks, you will then be tasked with a few other options or pieces of paper that you will then fill out. First and foremost is the JSA, the Job Safety Analysis Sheet. This is going to walk you through the steps of performing a job description, doing it safely and doing it correctly. You'll fill out all the appropriate information, emergency phone numbers. Our assembly point, our gathering point, is in the grassy spot at the end of the parking lot around the exit. You'll then sign in here saying that you're ready to go to work. The instructor has previously talked to each student about what to do when they're on shift. Right? If you are that row foreman, in addition to the JSA, you will fill out a hot work permit. Each hot work permit is numbered throughout the week, and each hot work permit is going to be different each different day. Right? At the end of the day, after your row is checked out, you will then sign back out on the JSA. You will sign out of the lotto sheet, and make sure you remember to remove your lock, take that home with you, and be ready to lock back in the next day. I challenge each of you to be locked in, signed in, and ready to go, actually throwing sparks within the first 2 minutes of your shift starting. So our sign-in sheet is for someone who walked around the shop once, you didn't see the instructor. Well, don't spend your valuable time walking around looking for someone or sitting in your booth waiting. Go back to work. But before I do that, I'll put my row number, my booth number on the sheet, and I'll check. Do I want the instructor to grab his hood and come weld with me, or do I just need to check his fit up or something like that? In addition to this being at the front of the shop, also we post other valuable announcements. So for instance, TWIC appointments are being posted for an upcoming TWIC class that is going to take place. For your safety, fire extinguishers are located on all four corners of the shop and in the shed out front. Remember the acronym PASS, P-A-S-S. I want you to pull the pin, aim at the base of the fire, squeeze the handle, and sweep sideways. So you remove the extinguisher, they're just hanging. You would pull the pin, you would then aim at the base of the fire, you would squeeze the handle, and you would sweep from side to side. Remember, these are small extinguishers. They are only designed for a fire that's in the incipient stage or the very early beginning stage. So a trash can fire or something small like that. If there is ever a large fire, make sure you have alerted the instructors on staff and that you are moving to the assembly point in the parking lot. So the emergency eye wash station is located at the front of the shop. If you think you got something in your eye, you're welcome to come and use this. Don't have to ask any permission at all. If you've never used one, we'll give you a little demonstration on how it works. The two nozzles are protected with flappers. You can either move the flapper yourself or the water pressure will open these up. All you have to do is insert your face over the top, push the button, and the water will start to come out. Make sure that you wash your eye away from the other one. So wash from your nose outward And the reason why is you don't want to wash something from one eye into the other eye. Right? If this doesn't get that, then make sure you see the instructor for assistance, and we'll get you the eye care you need. All right, today we're going to talk about the oxygen acetylene tanks and how to properly hook up and set these regulators. When you come to the tanks, they ought to be capped off. They ought to have a chain put on those. So we're going to start with the acetylene. We're going to remove the cap. We're going to grab the regulator. It's got the red hose on it. These regulators are designed so they cannot be interchanged with each other. You're going to grab your adjustable wrench, not your channel locks. Your channel locks will mar the shoulders of the nut, and then it will be no good anymore. Secure that firmly, and then we're going to check for leaks. We're going to take our soapy water solution, which is labeled. You'll find these around the shop. Should have a green solution. If there is none, please ask the instructor to help you refill this. Spray generously, and then pause for a moment and watch for any bubbles to start growing. So we had a leak, we corrected the situation, now it's safe to use. Now that you've taken care of the leak, we will forward on and commence to setting this regulator. We're going to take the T-handle and we're going to set the regulator, turn the tank on, a turn and a quarter. Set this regulator up on the lower side to about 7 pounds. The gauge maxes out at 15. The gas becomes volatile at that point. It's very dangerous. Our in-house maximum is 10, and they're going to work most efficiently at 6 to 7 pounds. Now we're going to roll around to the oxygen side and work on it. Again, in the same fashion, we'll take the cap off. Find your oxygen gauge. It will have the green hose on it. Install the nut tight just as we done with the acetylene. Make sure you're using your adjustable wrench. We're going to turn the oxygen tank on the entire way. It's a backseating valve, and then we will adjust our pressure up to around that 25 to 30 pound range. And again, we want to check for leaks. I'm going to spray generously and pause and look for leaks. Now that we have no leaks and our regulators are set, we're going to commence to lighting up the torch. So now we're going to talk about how to actually light up a torch. This is their track torch, but all acetylene torches are going to light in a similar fashion. We've previously set our oxygen and our regulator pressures according to what we recommend. We're going to start with the acetylene. We have our striker in hand and we have our face shield handy. Anytime you're using a flame to cut, you need your dark face shield as part of your safety apparatus. So we lightly turn the acetylene on. With a lot of smoke, we have a lot of carbon coming out. So we're going to adjust this until the smoke is nearly away, but we don't see any gap between the flame and the tip. Now we adjust our oxygen. This flame is considered a carbonizing flame. There's too much acetylene in the flame. If you'll notice, it has a very large cone. We continue to adjust the oxygen to a neutral flame. So now our cones look really uniform and crisp. When we hit our cutting lever, which is the lever on the top, it gives us an extra stream of oxygen, which will make our cut. If we put too much oxygen in, the torch will begin to hiss loudly, and it's an oxidizing flame. So you want to adjust to a nice neutral flame. So now that our flame is off and it's a little bit quieter, we're going to talk about how to properly adjust the track torch. One of the first things I'm going to do when I position my metal is make sure the angle is right. So I look on the side of the chart, whatever angle I'm cutting, I can adjust the angle from side to side. I can adjust my torch height to my metal here, and I can adjust my torch in and out with the other knob. Right? The thumb screws on this are designed for thumbs only, not to be tightened with the adjustable wrench. Any tool with a thumb screw was designed for that because of the manufacturer's recommendations. All right? So once I have this adjusted to my metal, I'm going to adjust my speed and my controls. The track torch has a forward and reverse switch. If I want to go one direction, I push it down. You can hear the motor run. If I want to go the other direction, I flip it up. All right? Once I flip this track torch down, then I have a speed control knob and I have a transmission that turns it on. This can be used from either side. So now my track torch will travel. If I need to adjust the speed, I can turn the knob while it's running and my speed goes faster according to the material thickness that I plan to cut. Once I am done, the first thing I do is shut the travel off. When I'm finished cutting, I want to make sure that I turn the motor completely off before I leave the track torch. So in this clip, we're going to talk about the bevel torch for the pipe. Notice I don't have any tools because you won't have any either. Every adjustment on this is made with the thumb screws. So they're thumb screws for a reason. These materials are aluminum alloys, and if you put a wrench on, you'll strip that guy out and then nobody will have the bevel. Right? So once you have your torch barrel into place, you can snug the barrel with the thumb screw that's on the back side. You can then adjust your angles here for whatever angle you're going to cut. Right? And if you need to turn the torch around, you can turn it around to the other side to cut the reverse angle of the ring. Right? You can adjust your torch here, in or out, to the edge of the pipe to make that particular ring to get this guy cut. Once you have it adjusted, then firmly secure the thumb screw at the bottom. If it's a 6-inch bevel, it actually has a chain clamp instead of a thumb screw. You'll light the torch in the same fashion that you do with the track torch or the hand torch, and then once your pipe preheats, you'll begin to turn the handle, which will crank this around. Notice your hose. Always mind your surroundings, because if I'm cutting now, I've just created a possible explosion or fire. So always hold your hose as you're cutting around. When you get back to the top and you've cut around and your pipe is nearly finished, continue cranking while you're shutting your hoses down, because you'll get a lot more pristine cut. Adjust your bevel torch to the appropriate size coupon. So for instance, if you're practicing, you're going to need a coupon that is no longer than 1.5 inches on the top side, overall length of 2 inch. And if you're weld testing, the instructor's got you ready for that, then you're going to need a coupon that is no longer than 3 inches on the overall length of the coupon. So there's a big difference, and you'll go a lot faster with these guys than you will with these guys. All right? So cut a coupon that has a male bevel on each end, head to the grinding room, clean it up. You'll cut 5 of your practice coupons, go to your booth, you'll weld 5 roots, show the instructor, 5 caps and fills, show the instructor, and then he's going to tell you if you're ready to test or if you need to do another set. So once you've got your tank safely rolled outside in the cart, that's when you find the instructor. Now it's a little bit of teamwork. The instructor is going to have a key to the cage. They will walk up and unlock the cage. While the instructor is unlocking the cage, you can then commence to undoing your bottle. There's no need to cram it right against the door. And you can meet the instructor halfway. As you're rolling your bottle in, the instructor is rolling their bottle out. We keep our full bottles on the right side as we enter the cage, and our empty bottles on the left side. Red rings are installed on empty bottles. Full bottles should have a green ring and be near the front. So the bottle change only takes a few seconds. You go back to work, the instructor locks the cage, and they go back to work. So when the instructor yells cleanup, we're going to go over what entails in the cleanup process. The very first thing you're going to do is immediately stop welding, go to the front of the shop and look at your cleanup chart. Clean your group area, your common area first. It tells you where to go according to your lock number, and then on the other page, it's color coded, so it tells you what to do when you get to that area. The instructor may explain some of these things in your first few days. In case you have any questions, please ask. Once your common area is done, then I like to look around and see if there's anybody else doing something, because the quicker we all clean up, the quicker we all get out of the shop. Once you've returned back to your booth, the very first thing I'm going to do is check my rod stub bucket. I want to make sure that I don't have any long rods left in there. This is a no. This one's good, right? So if I did have an extra rod like this, then I'm going to make sure that I've burned it down throughout the day. So I shouldn't have a can of these. All my rods should be fairly short. I'm going to break any metal off that I've had tack welded to the table. This is the only arm that we should tack to, not back here. This table needs to stay pristine so that you can put your metal together. So we got our scrap metal. We're going to figure out the right spot for that. If it's used up, it's going to go out to the dumpster. If this is your bevel that you have prepared, then I'm going to make sure it's cool. I'm going to put it in my bucket because I'm going to bring this back the next day so that I can continue welding on it. At this point, I want to grab my grinder because I walked into this booth this morning and it was pristine and it was clean and it was nice. There was no spatter all over it. And I'm going to leave it that way for the next guy that's coming in on me. So I'll don my face shield, clear anytime you're throwing a spark at KWI, and I'll grind all the spatter off of the arm, any spatter that I've got back on the table or anything all over this entire booth. I want to make sure that there's zero spatter left. When I'm finished, I return my grinder to my bucket because I'm done with it. And I can drop my grinder right into my tool bucket. At this point, I'm going to go to the front of the shop and I'm going to find a small broom and I'm going to start dusting off all of the flat surface areas that I see in the booth, above the switch, on the breaker box, any of those types of things. Once I'm completed there, then I'm going to check and see if there's anything that I need to wipe down or wash. If I do, I'll grab a paper towel and I'll get that dusty spot off of there. The next thing is to gather up the rest of my tools and belongings, stick those into my bucket. I'm going to set my bucket right outside the booth into the aisle. I'm going to rotate my table around so that it points at the shelf that is in the booth. That way when someone walks in here, if it's a little bit dark, they're not going to walk right into that table. I'll go to the pop machine up near the front. I'm going to grab a broom and I'm going to sweep out my booth. So I'll sweep everything out into the aisle. And at this point, if I notice that no one's been working in the booth across the aisle from me or in the booth next to me, I got a broom in my hand, I'm going to go ahead and grab those as well, get that swept into the aisle. Now my booth is considered clean and ready to go. I'm going to look up and down my aisle to see who else needs help, because I'm going to help that guy out because maybe he had more tacks on his table and it's taking him longer to grind. Once the aisle is out into the middle, then a group can work together, get that into your shovel, and get it into the appropriate sand trap to be carried outside and put in the scrap bin. Return your broom and shovel to the front, take your rod bucket, show your instructor your rod bucket. Don't just dump it out in the front of the shop in the container. Make sure you show out, report back to your booth, and wait. Your row foreman and your instructor will come by and check your booth to make sure you ground it and cleaned it properly, and you'll all be dismissed at the same time. So your classroom times have been posted or been announced by the instructor. The rear door of the classroom is where we enter. You will always come to the rear door and wait on the instructor to unlock that door 5 to 10 minutes prior to class. Every day when you come into class, you'll grab an ink pen from the rear table, you'll grab a dry erase marker from the rear table, and you'll also grab a dry erase card. This is what we're going to use to grade and record your quiz or test scores. With your dry erase marker, you can bubble in the last 4 of your social. That's what we call your stencil, 1, 2, 3, 4. And you don't have to put any other markings on this. When you're filling out your test, you'll fill out your test with your ink pen, but you'll also touch A, B, C, or D for the answer. Right? When you're filling out the top of your test, we just need your name and your last 4. Please don't put your full social on here, it's not required. And obviously don't even have to put the date because it's just extra ink and extra time, okay? So once you take your test and you're finished with it, you bring both copies, the paper copy and the dry erase copy, to the rear of the classroom. The instructor will then grade that for you. You'll record your test scores, ask any questions about anything that you missed and why. Place your card back on the table, erase your answers. The instructor will keep your paper test, put your pen and markers back in the box, and then file out of the classroom and go to the shop or go home, whichever your case is.